Hello there, this is James S. Crofty, 1978, and although I was too young to remember when, having broken away from the Labour Party on the grounds that it was too militant and radical, the moderate centrist SDP split the anti-Thatcher vote and guaranteed another Tory victory in both the 1983 and 1987 general elections, having lived through 5 years of coalition government here in Britain with the centrist Liberal Democrats abandoning every principle that they ever pretended to hold, winning a 5p charge on plastic bags in exchange for allowing the Tories to impose benefit sanctions that are still destroying lives and driving people to suicide to this very day, and even more recently having faced the very real, although thankfully now dead and buried possibility of malcontent moderate and centrist Labour MPs forming a new SDP, or to give it its proper name, a new kneecap Corbyn to keep the Tories in power party, my immediate response to the news that egotistical billionaire arsehole, direct quote, Howard Schultz is running for president in 2020 as an independent centrist, even before the Washington Post confirmed that he is deliberately and cynically attacking the progressive wing of the Democratic Party to split the anti-Trump vote, meaning that even Trump himself has figured out that this will help him to win 4 more years, and there was at least a ghost of a chance that Schultz was simply too stupid, ignorant or delusional to realise that this was what he was doing, was yes, this is what centrists do, and if I may go even further, it's literally their entire purpose and sole reason to exist. Because while it's true that I came of age under the moderate centrist governments of Blair and Brown after the unvarnished and unapologetic neoliberalism of Thatcher and Reagan had been rejected on both sides of the Atlantic, meaning that in the US as well, although the anachronism of the Electoral College meant that they were separated by 8 years of Bush Jr., the moderate and centrist Clinton and Obama were president for a combined 16 years between them. For the sake of brevity, in both countries, from It's the Economy Stupid and public-private partnerships and investment to Obamacare, and from regarding rights and equality as a PR exercise to deciding who was going to have to pay, both literally and figuratively, for the massive gambling debt left behind in the aftermath of the global financial crisis, that entire era can be summed up as, but we have to keep pandering to the 1%, big business and the fragile egos of insecure white boys who are resentful of any indication that we care more about women and people of colour than we do about them. Otherwise, the Tories and the Republicans will regain power and do exactly the same thing, only while being slightly more honest about their intentions. After all, as I mentioned in my previous video, links down the underbar, bearing in mind that the political spectrum is not divided between left and right, with moderate, rational and inherently superior centrists rising above it all, but between those who advocate change and progress and those who oppose it, so-called centrists are merely what we know as right-wingers, who are even deeper in denial about the fact that when the chips are down and they have to choose between what truly benefits others and what merely benefits them, even if it's merely by making them feel better, they only ever genuinely care about themselves and those closest to them. Meaning that although they inevitably claim to be and often sincerely believe that they are champions of rights and equality, seek to eliminate poverty and homelessness, protect the environment and so on and so forth, the moment that their own entitlement, privilege and ego is threatened, they become apologists for and enablers of the right, often claiming that radical militant and authoritarian leftists have driven them to it, while apparently failing to comprehend the fact that if you truly oppose racism, for example, and are fighting for racial equality, then you don't stop, or even worse, start advocating racism merely because people called you mayonnaise boy, or you're worried that affirmative action might cost your children their place at Harvard. Whereas on the other hand, if you're merely a self-serving poser who only pretends to care about racial equality, women's rights, MOGI equality, eliminating poverty, environmental issues and what have you in order to inflate your own ego, and who therefore, having literally only taken taken that position to make yourself feel better will take the contrary or even opposite position the moment that it stops feeling good, while convincing yourself that it's all their fault for not appreciating you enough because that's what makes you feel better now, is perfectly consistent behaviour. And indeed, if any centrists have clicked on this video at all, let alone watched this far, the very fact that you are outraged by this slanderous insult and vicious cyberbullying, meaning that you will no doubt dismiss me as a militant leftist fanatic or what have you, is precisely the point. Is precisely the problem. Because if you can't even handle being called hurtful names and told that you only ever really care about yourself and your own ego, irony alert, then how do you expect to handle losing the entitlement and privilege, let alone making the tangible sacrifices that will inevitably be necessary to genuinely and finally eliminate poverty, prevent an environmental calamity, and finally achieve social justice and equal rights? If you haven't already clicked away and unsubscribed in disgust, then thanks for watching, and holding out my busker's hat once again, considering that between my pitiful view count, my failing health and my dying laptop, your support is literally the only reason why I still make videos anymore. Please remember that even pledging $1 a month through Patreon will truly help inspire me to continue.